we had mentioned MLW coming to you. I think you were announced as signing in late 2019. I think they said it was like a 2-year deal, may have been a 3-year deal. When the pandemic hits right after that, how are you feeling like 3 or 4 months later when you're like, all right, well, I got myself a deal at least during this period, and who knows how long this world situation is going to last?
Yeah, it's nice to have the guarantee for sure. One of the big things that is nice about MLW is that, Court Bauer reached out to me weekly during the pandemic just to not only see, how like wrestling was, but like how my personal life was. I carry a day job, while I wrestle because as awesome as MLW is, we're not quite there to where it's something where I can support myself. I went through 6 years of college, so I have a lot of student loan debt to pay off.
Same.
But I had a day job, and during the pandemic, my day job shut down for almost 2 months. And Court would check in with me weekly just to see how I was doing, to see what I was doing, just to kind of just talk. And we would talk about all kinds of stuff, whether it be, just life or, we would bring up like old wrestling stuff to talk about. But Court's always had a really big interest in me since, I signed. And that's one of the things that really sets Court apart is I truly believe that Court cares about almost the entire roster to the point of reaching out to us and talking to us and, getting our opinion on things. For an example, like one of the things was Court, when I first started, was very big into me wearing the gi. He thought it set me off as different, which is funny because it was something that Gabe and I had talked about originally. I did not like the idea of it in Evolve because it was just too bulky for me. So I agreed to start with it in MLW, and we kind of like had some ideas of where we would go with some storylines on it. And out of the pandemic, I wasn't a big fan of wearing the gi as well. If I was going to team with Kevin, I really wanted to look the part of a tag team. So we pitched at the taping for me to go into the gear that I had gotten, and Court was very receptive to that, and that speaks volumes to him. He had a vision for me, and he was okay with letting me be comfortable in my skin and doing what I wanted to do.
I think there's
that. But
go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead, Sean.
No,
okay,
go ahead.
What I was going to say is, to have somebody that's so willing to work with me on that, that's one of the big things. Clearly, the signing cycle has been completely different than anybody could have ever imagined it being. The pandemic kind of really put the signing cycle into kind of hyperdrive. 2 years ago, you didn't know who Blake Christian or Alex Zane or some of these guys even were. And these guys now are, WWE guys.
Yeah.
And you would have never said, who knew who Ben Carter was at the end of 2020, or at the end of 2019, besides Dylan Hales? Very few people did. Yeah. And now he's, he was one of the hottest free agents this year. And, him getting to NXT UK was one of the bigger storylines, post-pandemic. So the signing cycle has been screwed. And, you could be one of those guys that says, man, if I didn't sign, maybe I'd be signed. But, you can't play that kind of game. MLW was willing to take a chance on me in September of 2019. And true story, one of the people that told me to sign with MLW in September of 2019 was BJ Whitmer, who works for AEW.
Yeah.
I had been very close with BJ since the start of my career through AIW, and I had reached out to him to kind of ask, to weigh my options. And he told me to go ahead and take the MLW deal, and see where my career lies in 3 years at the end of the MLW deal. So, I respect BJ's opinion as he's been a guy who's kind of been around a little bit of everything, ROH, AEW now. He's kind of done it.
Very good
so
guy, very smart guy about I've learned a lot just talking to BJ Whitmer.
Yeah, true. And BJ's always looked out for me. I remember when AEW was in town last February, we were in Cleveland last February right before the pandemic hit, he had gotten, some seats for Thorne, and they were second row. And Thorne had wanted to give me one, but BJ had said, no, you know what? I'd rather not put Dom in a bad situation of him getting seen on TV. So, it ended up being I got a whole different set of seats that I couldn't be seen. But, that was just a good guy looking out for me so I didn't get in trouble with my employer.
Yeah. I was at that show, actually.
But, yeah. That's why you were in town.
Yeah. I was doing the haircut gimmick.
You were in town to go to that show.
Yeah. I was doing the haircut gimmick.
I remember that now. That's great. But But yeah, so like MLW was willing to take the chance on me. They were willing to take the chance on Kevin right before the pandemic started. So that's where Kevin and I's minds are at. So right now, our goal isn't to say, well, we could have signed here. Our goal is to say, how are we going to make MLW, just as good as AEW? How can we make MLW just as good as WWE? How can we make people say, man, we're making the PWI top 50 tag list. Violence is Forever needs to be in the top 10 because they're, killing it in MLW.
So was it Court Bauer that reached out to you originally to make this MLW deal happen, or was it did somebody else do it? Like, how did that work out?
So it was a little bit of me and MSL just kind of touching base. MSL and me had first met back in, I want to say, December of 2016. He was doing commentary for American Combat Wrestling in Newport Richey, Florida, and I wrestled in a mall food court for them. And he'd kind of seen and taken a liking to me then. And then just the MLW stuff happened. And MLW was always like a periphery radar thing for me. Obviously, the original Team Filthy stuff caught my attention. I've been friends with Tom since he really kind of came to pro wrestling. I'm pretty good friend. I was pretty good friends with MJF at the time. And he really thought that I'd be a good fit for MLW back when they first restarted. There wasn't like a lot of like back and forth at first, mainly because of my Evolve deal, or when I was in Evolve. And then kind of after Evolve had kind of, been done and I kind of seen what they were doing and I wasn't sure if I fit their vision, I had reached out to MLW, and then MSL was really my point man kind of from day one on that. And he kind of referenced like, man, like I've been watching you and all your Evolve stuff and I've always thought about how good of a fit you would be, but I wasn't sure if there was a mutual interest there. So we kind of, talked and then we did some negotiations and it kind of all went from there.
I gotta say, my favorite part of your background is that it's sometimes cutting off your mullet. It's making you look like you have the undercut right now. Like, I don't know if you saw that thread of every WWE wrestler has the same haircut last week, but
yes,
it looks like you have that one now. So, like, you can compare hairstyles right now. But then when you turn...
I love it.
You turn, it's there. I love it. It's like... You're weighing. You got to be looking at Court Bauer like, look, Court Bauer, you better up that money in the future because I can work the WWE style with this haircut. Don't tempt me.
I need to put that as a note on my phone for a contract renegotiation with MLW.
Oh my God.